Good afternoon. This is Tech Tools for public access use. And so this is the idea of this workshop is the things that would help you to assist other people making program productions and stuff. I'm Jim Knightright, and I'm at Illinois State University at the moment because I'm working on a master's degree, but I worked for over 18 years at College of DuPage, which is in the western suburbs of Chicago. And manage the educational access channel we had there. With the other people here today are Tom Laux, who is the director of Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. David Ballerstein, who's a producer and a volunteer at Wisconsin Rapids. And Zach.
With Barbizon.
With Barbizon in Chicago. I was just trying to think of your last name, just lost it.
Rudd.
Zach Rudd. Yeah, sorry about that, Zach.
No worries.
I'm going to start off a little bit because what I've been doing the last few months, as some of you know, because I'm working on a master's degree at Illinois State University, and I have been working on a documentary master's, and so the last bit of it is making a documentary, and as opposed to writing up results from a study or something, or not results from a study or something like that. You create a documentary, and I'm in that process at the very moment, and hopefully we'll be defending within the next month or so. But one of the things I did, I'm doing it on community media, and as part of my project with this, is rather than using the HD camcorder that they had for the graduate students to use, I went ahead and attempted to shoot as much of this as I could with a cell phone. And learning all the gotchas that you run into in shooting with the cell phone and trying to do it. I mean, the big thing is that you want to have good sound and good light, and that really will make almost any camera you use look better. And so having the good sound and good lighting and planning those parts out, those were probably the most expensive things I did. Just to give you an idea of some of the things that producers run into when they're shooting with their own equipment. I've got a clip here for you. And thank you. I did it wrong. There we go. This is Pat Holt. She's a producer at Columbia Access Television in Columbia, Missouri, and she tends to shoot with DSLRs. She comes from a photography background.
Today I filmed a speech for a local candidate for Congress, and I used my own camera and my own recorder, but I don't have a mic that you hook on to people like this. So I borrowed one of those from Columbia Access Television, and I did not remember how to use it right, so I wasn't able to use it. But when I came back, I showed it to Sean, who is the boss here. He's the director of Columbia Access Television. So I showed it to Sean, and he explained to me what settings I was supposed to use. And I'm very grateful for that, because I know how to use it. I probably learned when I had the class, but over the time I haven't used it. There's a setting for line and mic and something else, and I had it set on the wrong setting. And there was another internal setting that I forgot to do. So I'm happy that that Sean is here to help me.
Pat is an ex-Marine, and she's 84, and she actually had one of her films get oh shoot, what is it? The Citizen Jane, I think, is the film festival that she won an award at just in the last year or so. So she's a very interesting person to talk to. But the other that was one of the big things that is just trying to help people with their getting around the gotchas that they're going to get when they're working with their own equipment. The other thing memory was an issue that I found when I was trying to do it, and trying to work with a phone with an external SD card is really kind of a must, because you really want to wipe the card and reformat it every time. Get your files off of it and reformat the card. Just erasing stuff off the card, still you run into defragging issues with the card, and that can corrupt a file very easily. And so dealing with corrupted files was one of the things I got to play with, and recovering corrupted files is a whole other set of things. The other thing is that, here's the phone. This is my phone. It's an LG G4. I'll hold it up here so it's a little closer for
Community
you.
media is.
I'll be quiet.
And
The one thing with the cell phones is that their cameras are built for selfies and trying to get a lot of people in a shot. So they're actually wide-angle lenses. And most of the time, it doesn't make a big difference. But when you're interviewing somebody, and I'm using these are both clips from my thesis, and raw clips from my thesis. And I interviewed Ross as part of the people. My thesis is on community media, and creating a place to stand is what it is, a place, the place-making part of community media. And so interviewing Ross, you'll notice a couple of things that are artifacts from the lens that show up in it. And
community media is an entity that covers and archives and explores what's going on in a specific local community.
he's reaching
It's
toward the
local
camera,
news, it's
and
local events.
so his hands are getting magnified,
So many of
greater than
the
everything else. So his hands
media,
come out bigger than his head.
outlets that we have now are covering national events. And
But in order to get
doing local events, and that's
a
what
good medium
community
close-up,
media does, is that it
you
brings
have to
that
be closer to
localism
your subject
directly to residents.
with these lenses. So that's where I was running into it. Okay, thanks. The setup I was using is just a simple tripod, a cheap tripod. And I was using, to hold it onto the tripod, this is actually the clip that came with a selfie stick. Now this tripod does have a bubble on it for leveling it, but this isn't level. The clips isn't level. So what I wound up using was the a level app for my phone, just a simple level app on the phone, and then I could level it, and I just ignored the rest of the tripod for settings for leveling. But got through it that way. The big thing that I invested in, I think, had to do with audio, because this was certainly a cheap tripod. It worked okay when I needed a stabilizer for hand holding, but there are much better stabilizers out there. But for audio, what I did is I purchased a Shure lavalier microphone and an extension cable, and it's still not as easy to see, but the pinouts are different from the different cables and stuff. And so like with the cell phone, you've got it's called TPPS, which is TRRS, excuse me, tip, ring, sleeve. Thank you. I always want to say shield for some reason because it's coax coming back into my mind. And so what I did is I purchased, this is actually a breakout box, and it's made by Rode. Rode makes mics that are just would be equal to this mic. The Rode SC6, it actually will let you plug in two microphones, and it mixes them into one channel. So that's still it's not optimal. I never used it in that configuration, but it also gives me an output for headphones, so I could listen to what I was going in and trying to get microphones. So I have my kit here, and always reuse boxes and stuff. And I'll pass this around. You leave that out. But I've got and you can take them out of the bags if you want. But it's a Shure Shure microphone, the Rode SCC6 for the breakout, and that's basically what I use. The one problem I found as I was working on it was that the Rode SC6 is heavy, especially when you got all the cables plugged into it. So I tended to gaff tape it to the tripod, the cables, so I could take some of that weight off of the cables. And then finally, what I ended up doing was I switched my order of things and put the extension cord first, and then put in where I had everything plugged in further down the line. So this was sitting on the floor then at that point. But my extension cable and the microphone and the let's see, I'll go to the next thing. My extension cable, the microphone, and the breakout box were all pinned TRRS, and the pinning configurations were Apple pinning configurations. I'll let this wander around through the course of the conference. And I think that's one of those things that people don't always have the mics, and so that's one of those things that we would be possibly being ready to loan to somebody. With the pins on the thing, getting the pins right is one of those issues, and I don't know how many people is TRRS. You're used to that already. I see a couple of people who've encountered this already. So the one thing that I found is that even though sometimes things are TRRS, sometimes it's they're configured differently. And so one cable that works for one thing doesn't necessarily work for the other. And I standardized, because my phone has got the same pin connections as the Apple, the CTIA pinning configuration. So I was able to make sure that everything stayed with that. Because you could run into some issues if you run into it with the microphone and the ground switched. And I didn't want to fry anything. I stepped away from the thing. So anyway, that's all I wanted to do is as an introduction, and I'm going to pass this over to Tom here in just a second. And we'll have time for questions at the end.
All right. Again, Tom Laux here, Community Media out of Rapids. I just want to go through this really pretty quick. I want to have my colleague, David, to talk about something that's pretty cool that we do at the station as well. So what I want to touch on is keeping it simple and fun. So this is a bit different than just going out like Laddie is back here. We're trying a different approach here to get something quick and fast, but still with some quality in mind as well. So just keeping it simple for the beginner, low cost, portable, quick setup, easy for interviews, and again, quality. You guys can see this thing. Everyone has probably seen them. I find it easy to use with your smartphone. I'll pass it around. $100, you can get them at Best Buy. I put a few different ones up here for people to see. If anybody wants copies of this, gladly send it to them. My copier was not behaving when I wanted to print all this out. So I have these slides and I'm gladly share it. But I don't know if anybody's used stabilizers. Has anybody used one for smartphones? Yeah, so I think they work out good as long as you're prepared and it's ready and working right. One with gimbals is really important. That's really, it does a better job by leveling and making sure things are correct. But I find this easy to get a quick interview. I actually did an entire myself. So if you're more of a one-man band, this really works out good. I actually did a selfie like this, and being stabilization, it's not all crazy. So it does help a lot. And again, these are the pieces. So here's one here, just pass it around. It's nothing's, and it's not on right now, so it won't go crazy. If you leave it on, the thing goes nuts. So that's why I have it off. How many people have used a Mevo? Anybody use any of this stuff yet? Okay, so I got one guy. We find this thing to be very useful, and we ordered a next generation as well. I have 3 different local churches on this program, so we've helped church get into this to provide it into an HD and a relatively reasonable cost. We have used the audio in it, but you pretty much want to be like right here. But otherwise, with your phone, you can plug in any kind of mixer. It's really got a lot of capabilities. It's amazing what it can do. You need to be in good light. I think when you get into that poor light, you start seeing that grain and that it's the first version. So, but for $250 now, you can get the first version. And if you have an iPad, iPhone, there you go. Link it up, and you're set. You're in business. So.
Talk a little bit more about what Amiibo is.
So Amiibo is basically this handheld device, size of my palm. It's a camera. It can live stream. It can go to Facebook. It can go to YouTube. You name it. So we do Facebook Live. We just had airport groundbreaking about, a half hour ago. Threw it on Facebook. Our multimedia specialist is there doing that, so it went over Facebook. We could go over the channel at the same time with another piece of equipment. We just decided to go Facebook on this. So these are the just basic apps that you can use, and then there's an interview. A lot of newspaper people are using this. They're not getting into, if you want to do it as just a simple interview of two people right there on the left, but you can control it. I have done a full studio program with this. And, I do the interview. I was a one-man band, had 3 guests, and did all the switching and asking questions. You got a lot going on in your head. I think it's great for the stations that don't have all the people there to help. So, so you can kind of see what it does. You can go to Periscope, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and live stream, Vimeo, you name it. It's got a little SD card in it too, so you can take that off. If you don't want to go live, take that, put that in, throw it into Adobe Premiere or your iMovie, and away you go. So the quality is actually amazingly pretty good. I think it's about 17 millibits per second on the quality of the video, but it's at 720 right now, as I believe. That's where we're shooting it at. So I have an example, but I want to show it to I'm not going to show it to you now, but go to our YouTube page. We did a video last fall too on clock tower presentation, and we took that out there in one camera, which was easier because we had other things we had to do, so we're trying to make it easy.
How do you handle audio with that?
So what's different about that is you actually use your iPhone. I use my iPhone, and you can use the audio in the camera. Not so good, and that only works if you're like basically an interview from here to here, and then it gets sounding hollow. But I put my device right. I got a cord that goes right into my iPhone. So if it's a microphone like this, I'll have like that piece that's going around. I have a little Velcro there, and I just put the transmitter and receiver there, and then it's back there with the mic. So I did this for a volunteer center, the same setup, and it worked out really good. So basically that is here at the podium, and then your other piece is by you. If it's not Velcroed next to the tripod, but if you're that, then I have it on top. There's a little piece of Velcro. So, and then you're able to control that mic within the app itself. So it switches over. So you could have a mix if you wanted and control it through a mixer and that. But yes, it has both involved right into the app. It's pretty amazing, and it does a good job. So you're right into a mic. So this is another gadget. I don't have one. I've talked to several people that do, and we're looking at this to get use of basically the cameras like that back there rather than that Mevo. You could hook up many cameras to this, and it's $9.99, and you're wireless. And if you're looking to do a multi-production camera event, like at a hockey game or a football game, this is a very low-cost, easy way to do something, but still use the quality of camera versus the Mevo. So if you want to use what Laddie's using, there you go. You got it for basically. You can buy the initial setup is $1,000, but then you got to buy these little boxes here that are next to that SLR to transmit to the main box. So if you have an iPad, it's amazing what you can do with this stuff. And really, it's about the camera that you're putting in there. So this is just a higher end version of using a better camera. And we're looking at getting this down the road for our volunteers. Our volunteers are using the Mevo in concerts and stuff. But you know, you get into some areas that the Mevo just doesn't do what you want it. If it's blown out highlights or in a stage setting, it's not as easy to set. I mean, yeah, it has the white balance, but it doesn't have the easy gain controls that you might want to take down, like what is back there, and then you could do that here with a regular camera. So yeah, you could put it, I'll call it dead stick, and have set 6 of those cameras around, but at least you could get different angles, and it's just another form. So Sling Studio, you know, you see all these around, and there's more and more of them coming out. So I think it's a neat little gadget, and we're going to know more about it. We'll probably have one here in probably a couple months. So, and then I can share how it works. Everybody wants remotes a lot of times, or you know, don't have a cameraman. There's several of them out there. We all know that, or you have a PTZ camera, but that costs money. This thing is pretty cool. A tripod and another app that you can hook on. This is one is there's a lot out here, but this one does a really good job for the heavier camera rather than the lighter camera. There's always been light ones for light cameras, but they don't really work very good. But this one here, for the price of a couple $100, you have the capability of having motion control, which is something that I find very useful if I was doing my own show and I didn't have somebody that could operate a camera or somebody that could be a producer. So once again, another easy way for a one-man band to do some stuff, and controlled all on the phone that you have. So a lot of both of these are always Android or iOS capable. So what else do I have here? I just wanted to go really quick. I'm not going really elaborate because I want David to explain something that's pretty high tech and what we have over at the station that he implemented. And but again, I just want to put the tools, the Mevo, the handheld piece that's going around. The look of what the Mevo looks, it's amazing. Basically what it does is it takes the sensor and it takes a crop of the sensor and then pushes that out. But today's sensors that are built into these kind of cameras are amazing. The more megapixels they can build into those, the more you're going to crop. It's like 4K. You know, 4K is always the way to go if you can get it in a drone or something, because maybe you want to crop down really tight. You can't fly that low. Well, look at 4K. You could really push it down and get the quality. The Mevo is the same kind of idea. You can crop super tight. And it's got such a wide, it almost has it could have a panoramic look. So, but it has its place. All these things have their place to use them. Don't use them in certain areas. You just you got to trial and error is what you do. But definitely hooking audio up to the Mevo is, I think, essential, unless you're just going to do something really quick and basic and want to get it out there on social media, probably, because, you know, social media, YouTube, so much different than television and audio. You can get away with about anything on that, because that's kind of the norm. But type TV, no, it's not the norm unless you're watching OTT. That's the norm of going up and down and driving you crazy. But in our industry of cable, I think, you know, you want to really pay attention to sound. Sound is everything, I think. So basically, that's it. You want to give me a call or ask me, I'd gladly send this to you or give me any ideas. And I couldn't bring the Mevo because we only have one. The other one didn't come in. It was used today. And that's why I would have brought it, but we don't have it. So here's David.
I'll let him go first. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so Zach, right?
Yeah, Zach.
All right, Zach, here you go, and then David will be up next. And do you have any?
I do not.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Zach. I'm with Barbizon in Chicago. We're a lighting company and expendables. So we sell everything from gaff tape to gels to lighting fixtures of all realms. We sell to all the shows and movies in the Midwest if features come to town. I do expendables packages with them. So once again, gaff tape, lamps. We work with all the theaters, and we delve into some architecture as well. I'm going to be brief. Basically, funny enough, I didn't expect what I was going to talk about to go so fittingly with what these gentlemen are talking about, but I don't know how familiar y'all are with LED. The lighting world is changing rather rapidly. This is a 20-watt LED. That is not, when I say 20 watt, that's not comparable to a 20-watt incandescent. An LED uses so much less energy to emit so much more light. So if you had a 60-watt LED, compared to a 60 watt incandescent, you might very well go blind, to give you perspective. So yeah, this is a fixture that's it's lithium ion battery powered, and on a full charge at full intensity, it can last up to 4 hours. So you can take this out in the field, you can mount it. I have several ways to show you how to mount it at my booth out there. But to me, this is like the biggest thing in the game right now. I sell to all the NBC shows in Chicago, Chicago Fire, Chicago Med, and they've just bought out tons of these quasar fixtures because they're so malleable with what you can do, and they're so affordable. This piece is $300 at 2 feet, and it could really probably light a guy head to toe, where that gentleman in the red is sitting right there. But yeah, it's got 5 dimming stages in it. So right now it's on tungsten. You could also hold it down and put it to daylight. It's a clean bicolor, so 5600 degrees Kelvin, that's your daylight. 3200 degrees Kelvin is your tungsten. Like I said, there's 5 dimming stages that you simply just push on the button to go through. If you want to turn it back on, you put it on. If you want to switch to tungsten, you just hold it down. Then you also have your dimming stages as so. I've been talking to a few people out here about LED fixtures and, buying Chinese fixtures for really cheap and things like that. There are good ones that you can get, but you could get really cheap fixtures on Amazon and things like that. And I know a lot of people tend to go that way. I'm going to tell you why you don't want to. And one of the things that was brought up, I believe, by the gentleman in the hat there was flicker. This is flicker free. You're going to get no flicker on your shoots with this. Also, what I find to be most important is the CRI, which is the color rendering index. If you're not familiar in lighting, the color rendering index, it basically is a scale that goes to 100, and lights are given scores based on that scale, and more or less the color rendering index compares how the color shows up. It's confusing. How the color shows up in a natural light source. So when you're on the scale, you have your red, your blue, your green. How it looks in the sun, per se, it's comparing that on that index, and that is averaged out. So some of those cheaper fixtures, the green, how it looks in the sun, is at skyrocketed on the spectrum. I wish I had a pie chart so I could show you. But the green would be way up here, and the red would be way down here. What you're getting with this is a 95 plus CRI LED, is you're getting an even keel spectrum. So every color in the color range is even. 95 is about as good as it gets. The highest LED CRI level that was ever recorded was 98, to give you an example. And this fixture at $300, at 2 feet, I sell a 1 foot. At $200, I sell a 7-inch at $100 that we're giving away at the raffle. You can't beat it. I mean, you could mount it in the field, indoors, and you can mount it outdoors, and it's just super high quality, and you could get a bunch of them. I mean, I've done full-on interviews with these quasars. I also sell AC adapted ones that the 1 foot is $125 and the 2 foot's $175, and you could plug in, and you could create a 3-point lighting system for less than what it would cost you to get, one light. Some of those Astras, the bigger ones out there, those are $1,400. So I'm an independent filmmaker too. I make a lot of different films, and I do a lot of different commercial shoots and things like that. And I've stocked up on these myself just for my own stuff, because I could throw it in a bag and I could go and have fun. I shot a whole music video where all I was doing was strobing it by turning it on and off, and I got this really unique look. And yeah, there's a lot of cool things you can do in the lighting world for really cheap and get really solid quality that wasn't available, 1-2 years ago. The guys that make these all worked on Star Wars. They worked on Jurassic Park. You could read about them. They all quit doing rigging, and they started a manufacturing company called Quasar. in Los Angeles, and it's just really interesting. And if you have questions, if you ever want quotes, the other thing about us, not to like completely sell myself or whatever, you could get these wherever, is what we do as opposed to B&H or Adorama or some of those companies online is we're always there. The warranty that you get with the lighting manufacturer, and we represent just about everyone in the game, we handle that. Your repairs, everything. You call us, if we sold you the light, we work on it. As opposed to B&H, you're going to have to talk to some bot online and go through this process. All you do is call me and say, hey, I bought this light from you, the order number, and it's not working, and I work on it for you. So yeah, that's my spiel. If you have questions, like I said, I'll be around, and thank you.
We expect to have some time for questions.
Oh yeah, right.
David, bye.
You can tell I'm not a PowerPoint person. I'm really not. There we go. So, once again, my name is David Vallerstein. I'm a volunteer and community producer with Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. Just a little bit about myself real quick. I started volunteering with when it was River Cities Community Access back in '93, so I was probably about like this tall. So, but otherwise, been with media pretty much all my life. Worked for WSAW out of Wausau for 4 years, and then I moved on since they have changed hands. But other than that, I'm going to talk about video and workflow automation. This has been a concern with us, you know, with most of you probably taking DVDs or other types of media formats and convert them right there in your facility and then transfer them over to whatever media playback system that you're using. So this is the inside of the control room right here. What we're going to talk about, the servers that we use, the systems, cloud interface, the networking, volunteers and staff, how they use it, and the rules that we put in place with the system. So why automation? Well, sometimes I can go down there, you know, on my day off, and this is how I see Tom some days. I'm sure most of you probably recognize this kind of image, that you're doing multitasking, you're trying to get all this stuff done, and which results in sometimes working past your time, late at night, and at the end of the day, this is how I think he feels like. Not that he's Julie Andrews jumping around, but this is, you know, pretty much what I thought. So with that, we started off using the Digital Western Cloud, which we used for a while, and we started having problems because you had to use that special software that DW had that you had to install on your computer. And it started having problems when they started doing updates, so we were trying to figure out, well, what else can we do? So this is what we did. We have these two systems right here. The bottom one, that's we put Freenas on there. Freenas is a Linux-based operating system. It's absolutely free. Just to let you know, we're not endorsing anything. We're not being paid to speak about this. This is what we found that works well for us. And for the last 4 months we had this running, Tom, right? It's worked flawless so far, and it's been pretty indestructible. I tried destroying it over the network, and it will not crash, so which is a good thing. On the side here, this is just a regular external hard drive, 6 terabyte. This system is capable of doing 1 petabyte worth of hard drives. So, I mean, at that cost, you're looking at about $100,000 worth of drives. So, but we don't need that. What does it cost, and what do I need? Well, it could be pretty much whatever you want it to be. It could be even free, not including some of the software. I think the one software we paid for was like $30, and that was all that we had to use. So these two systems, they were just parts that we had computers laying around. We didn't even use anymore. They're not the fastest machines, but they're still good. So why not put them to use? You know, you don't have to go out buy, you know, $7,000 server to do it. These are just standard consumer grade PCs. The one on the bottom's got an Athlon processor in it. The one on there has got an i5 on that one. So the first one, which is the bottom one here, we got the Freenas server. That's the actual operating system, and then the cloud interface is installed inside of that. The second one on top, that's running Windows 10 right now. We got the Adobe encoder, which we use a watch folder. And then we got the file transfer software in there, an archiving software, and a cleanup service. So I'll talk about the cloud interface first. So we're using Nextcloud. There's different versions of Nextcloud, a standalone, but this here is a plugin that you can get installed into the Freenas. It's absolutely free. It's customizable. You can do whatever you want with it. Your volunteers need to have an easy way to access their files, photos, documents, and work and share with the team members. This system is pretty robust. It's secure. If they want to share a file with somebody, or if you want to send a link to somebody, you can generate a shared file folder. You can attach that, and it runs off of your server in-house. You don't have some third party controlling that. Everything, the Freenas itself works with Apple, Android, Windows, all the major internet browsers that you would want. So on the Nextcloud, this is the user interface that we built. It comes pretty plain Jane, but you can pretty much spruce it up the way you want. You can put your own logos in there, backgrounds. I picked the old TV there because I thought it would look great. I do change it for holidays, you know, little Christmas trees and stuff like that, but it gets people kind of riled up sometimes. But anyways, the bottom one, I put stickers on there because it helps us for, you know, like Tom or myself, you know, that we have internal IP addresses, so everything's all web-based. These two systems don't have monitors, no keyboards, nothing attached to them. It's just the PC itself. So on the web interface, they can go to wr-cm.org, which takes them to the website for Wisconsin Rapids Community Media, and scroll down, and there's a place for a volunteer to click on the video drop box. This interface will come up. This works. This scales to your desktop, your mobile phone, tablet. It's a really great interface. So the user will go ahead and log in, and then this is what they'll come up with. I'll talk about the rules later. So this is my login. So I have access to more things than like a regular volunteer would. So the very first one is the WRCM files. That we put all the communication stuff that any volunteer would see. That would be current policy, like the new policies for the station, you know, of rules and regulations. We put the video disclaimer in there so they can download that and insert that into their program. Any other documentations that they would need, it's all there. They can't delete it, it's there, they can download it. The WRCM itself, that's for all the administration. That there is where we can go into any volunteer's folder. Say if they had something, they dropped some goofy file in there, we can go in there and look at it. But other volunteers, they would only see just their folder and that's it, nobody else. So it keeps it really secure, so Tom couldn't go into like, well, he could, but if he was set up as a volunteer, he couldn't go in there and destroy my files and mess things up. The next one is the work files. That's for volunteers that are working on a current project. So they could be doing something at home, capture footage, upload all their MTS video files up there. If they want, they can come down to the studio and edit right off the network from the Freenas. So now we're not tying up a bunch of Macs in the studio. Say like there's one computer, it's got their project on, somebody comes in, oh, somebody's using my computer that I saved my project on. Now they can edit right off the Freenas. Anything that they do there, they can go home and also see it on their work area right there. So this is a way for people who are doing projects that they can save that, they can work on it at home, they can work it down at the studio at any time. So it gives them that flexibility, and it's more convenient for everybody. The next one is a video drop. I'll show how that works and how it would benefit community stations with that, which is the headache reducer, is what I'll call that. That video drop is where they drop their final program. So whether if they're editing it at home, editing it in the studio, they drop it in there and it's on its way. We don't touch it from the beginning that it goes in there to the very end. We never see it. Only in the playback server. That's where it ends up.
5 minutes.
Oh, 5 minutes? Oh my gosh. Ah! Okay. So the my work files, that's that. That's my things. This is how the setup is. So the user would log in, user type, if it's an admin, there's no encoding. It does not go through that computer with the Adobe encoder. But if it needs to be encoded, like say someone gives us an MPEG-2 file and we need an MP4 in a specific way, if it needs to be encoded, yes, it moves to another drive for safe holding. So that video drop folder, it gets transferred out of that and goes into a working drive. So that way they can't log into the cloud and delete it while it's being encoded. So once they see it disappear, it's on its way. It gets encoded, moves to another folder for holding for about 10 minutes. And then after that, then it's delayed transfer into the A-list, which is the broadcast server that we use to play out. So this is how it kind of operates on a simple term. User can log in from the outside world. Their video dump, that's what makes it into the A-list. So it goes into the cloud drive. The second computer moves it to the work drive, so it goes into the encoded folder. Adobe encoder then encodes it, moves it to the video ready for playback. Then it moves it up into the playback server. At about every day at 3 a.m., it automatically takes any new programs that came into the studio and backs it up to an archive drive. Once that archive drive is full, we pull that out, put the piece of paper on there that shows all the programs and the dates that was modified on there, throw that on a shelf, slap a new hard drive in there, and then we tell the system anything from today's date on forward, now make a new archive of those programs so you're not back copying previous shows or programs. This is just the screen interface from the Freenas. It's very easy to use. Anytime you add a new hard drive, you can just slap it in there. You can set it up in a RAID. This is just the web interface for the Freenas. It's got the web interface, file sharing, snapshots, so in case if anything happens to the drive, you can automatically restore that state of the drive, all the files. So it's got that. You can even send snapshots from there to another device in the network, so in case if the whole thing were to crash, you can still recover the whole system regardless. This is how you add users for your internal network. It's very simple. You just put in their names, password, and then you just assign them to what kind of groups they are. So when they go onto a Mac or an Apple, I'll skip this screen. When they go to connect as, they just put their username and password in there and it just takes them just to their folder. So they can't get into anybody else's folder and mess things around. The one beauty about the Freenas is you can have as many network cards as your system will supply, or you can put into it. So like one setup that we're gonna be trying is adding a second network card, so then you just have in-house network and then traffic from the internet, so you're not bogging it down when people are uploading. You can even add a 10 gigabit network card, so if you're going to be starting doing like editing 4K and you want to save all your stuff to your NAS, you can do the same thing and edit right over the network. And on Windows, it will show up as Freenas when you're on a Windows device, and then the users and folder structure will be there. These are the programs that we use. Like I said, we don't endorse anything. Workshop automation, that sets the rules. That's what we tell it, who needs encoding and who doesn't. That transfers all the files from the cloud to the transfer system and encoding. We use Directory Sync Pro, that does the archive. Internet Downloader, we use that for downloading programs like Democracy Now! This is just a snapshot of the workstation, so this is how we set our rules up. We got like CLF, Emmanuel and Lutheran. This is the church section. They all need encoding because they never send us anything. But go away. Sorry about that. So Directory Sync Pro, that's the one that does all the archiving for us. Download Manager, that's how we get our Democracy Now! We used to get it on satellite, but the people who paid for it, they no longer pay for it, but now we download it because you can get it through an HTTP link. So that automatically downloads it, and we have that queued up for a whole month. So as soon as it comes available, it automatically downloads it and sends it in the server without intervention. And then of course we all know the Adobe products, so that's what we use on that. So with that, it's saving time. You can, if you're ripping DVDs, you can just send it in there and it will move it over. So it's all eliminating all this file transfer, all these movings, you know, sitting there clicking, copying, pasting all day long. And your volunteers, organizations that send videos, it doesn't matter what video format they send you, it will automatically convert it and transfer it over into the playback system, whether it's through just a regular network file or an FTP, it will get it into the computer, and all we got to do is just go in there and schedule for today and just drop and drag and hit save, and it will play the next day. So
That's great. We're at the end of time, but we can probably take a couple of questions.
yeah, I got some handouts here if you want. It was just the short information of all the programs that we're using. Like I said, I'm not endorsing anything, so it's just, and I got my contact information in there too. Yes?
Just wondering what broadcast system you guys use?
We use an A-List by Rushworks.
Okay.
It's a 4-channel platform, but we only use 2 channels on it. And that's a Windows Pro 7 with a Xeon processor in there. So that's a system that we use for our playback. So, but like I said, about 95% of our volunteers and users use that system. They log it in. We no longer try not to handle with DVDs anymore or any other types of media. This thing will convert it to MP4 no matter what it is. Even if it's standard definition, it will put it into an HD for us, and it's a headache reliever.
I can tell you, it really makes a big difference when you've got a watch folder that you can send the media encoder and get your output. We did something like that at college in Page when I was working there. We would have, you drop it in the folder and overnight, the next day you'd have your YouTube copy, you'd have a copy for where we archived, and a copy that was set up for the, optimized for our cable playback, and it just, you can work with different systems. So
Right.
I think this is probably a more elegant way it's set up than what we have.
Yeah, it sounds complicated when it comes from my mouth because I'm kind of goofy that way, but it's actually very simple to set it up on your own. But for a system that will take a volunteer's final project, transfer it, encode it, send it to your playback system, and archive it automatically for you, I mean, that's a time saver, so you don't have to dig around and like, well, what files do I have to archive that I need to save for forever, you know, and oh, this and that. It's doing it all for you. And I mean, it's some volunteers found it a little strange that they would log in and their file is missing, you know, and they call down the studio, where did it go? Well, it's been taken out for a reason. The system moves it out of that folder so they can't go in there and try to delete it while it's encoding. So it's just we put a little safety guards in there. So that's why we set those folders up the way they are and the timing. And every Sunday we have it set up to clean, where it cleans up all the backups that everyone sent. So in case something did happen, we could manually go into that file or into that folder and fix it for them, saying, hey, you know what, my audio is really, really bad. Can you like get rid of it? And like, yeah, we can, or we can adjust it. We try not to do that, but it keeps safekeeping on there. But Sunday mornings at 3 a.m., it does house cleaning. So it keeps that working drive clean at all times, so it's not piled up with terabytes worth of stuff. But the cloud drive is the one that actually builds up, because we got volunteers that got 200 plus 445 gigs was last night. I seen one volunteer had that they got a lot of projects going on, so that's where they're saving it. So
One thing that we that we use it for is or pushing towards is like building up our videos that are created on Facebook by city departments or our PD. We're gonna, we'll be able to make it. We want to make it easy for those people to drop that file. And it might not be. Most likely, it's not going to run our playback system correctly. But usually, they're all shooting at least 720 or something on their phones in HD. But that encoding process that takes it to Adobe fixes all that, and we can actually have it set right up into our. We have an auto playback, which is like our bulletin board. Go right in there automatically. The only thing, you got to trust that their audio is going to be good. But within the city, I think, you know the good players, and you know the players that need to be watched.
And with the web interface, it's really user friendly even on a cell phone. So even if you're doing a quick interview and you want to upload that, you can just upload that file and it puts it into the the correct file format right up into the studio right now, and it's sitting on the server waiting to be played back. So I mean, it's just a wonderful tool. No matter what platform you're recording from, no matter how you're getting there, it's going to get there without having to dump in a DVD and then convert it and then move it here and move it there and then transfer it. So this is taking out all those steps, and it's been a lifesaver. It really has been.